الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. أما بعد, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear children, you're always welcome. It's always nice to see you. Now, today I'm going to talk about how should men of faith react when Allah or His messengers or His revelations are ridiculed or insulted. You might have heard what is going on at the moment in Afghanistan and the protests for the last few days regarding the burning of the Quran by the American troops and the apologies by the American administration and the commander in charge of the American forces in Afghanistan. But how should we as Muslims react whenever Allah or His messenger or any of His messengers actually or any of His revelations are being insulted or ridiculed? In Islam, we should never resort to violence. Islam prohibits violence in any form. When Musa ﷺ was a young man, he was so strong and powerful, and he tried to defend a member of his clan, one man from Bani Israel. So he pushed or punched the Egyptian who was fighting with him, and he killed the Egyptian. Later, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to him, He made it very clear to him that you should use this, not the fist. Use your brain, use your mind. When he asked him to put his hand next to him, he said, وَاضْمُمْ يَدَكَ إِلَى جَنَاحِكَ تَخْرُجْ بَيْضَاءَ مِنْ غَيْرِ سُوءٍ وادخل يدك في جيبك تخرج بيضاء من غير سوء اسلك يدك في جيبك تخرج بيضاء من غير سوء. All these verses in the Quran in Surah Taha, chapter 20, Naml 27, Al-Qasas 28, meant, O Musa, from this moment, put your hand next to you. Don't use your hand. Put it next to you. And when you go to Pharaoh, talk to him nicely and gently, because he might reflect or learn, or fear me, or repent, or be good, or adjust his conduct. فَقُولَ لَهُ قَوْلًا لَيِّنًا لَعَلَّهُ يَتَذَكَّرَ أَوْ يَخْشَى. Talk to him in a nice, gentle way, so that he may reflect, he may fear me, he may be good, he may adjust his conduct, he may let the children of Israel go, and so on. So, insulting Allah or insulting His revelations or insulting His messengers is not something new. It's been happening all the time from day one. And I'm going to give you a few examples regarding how people did insult Allah and insult the Prophet and insult the revelations previous. It's not something new which we are not aware of. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Satan to prostrate himself to Adam and Satan refused, in Surah Al-A'raf chapter 7, Satan says to Allah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. So in this verse, Satan accuses Allah that it is Allah who misled him. It is Allah who made him not to prostrate to Adam. It's not his fault, it's the fault of Allah. He shifted the blame onto Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم. Because you has thrown me out of the way, I will lie in wait for them on your straight way. So the lie is in suggesting that Allah has thrown him out of the way. In other words, misled him, whereas his own conduct was responsible for his degradation. Pharaoh claimed to be the one God. He said to his people, وَقَالَ فِرْعَوْنُ يَا أَيُّهَا الْمَلْأُ مَا عَلِمْتُ لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَهٍ غَيْرِي. O chiefs, no God do I know for you but myself. So Pharaoh even denied the existence of Allah, and he claimed or proclaimed himself the one true God. In another verse, he said, "Ana rabbukum al-a'la," I am your Lord, the Most High. So Satan blamed Allah or accused Allah of misleading him. It's the fault of Allah, not my fault, it's your fault. Pharaoh even denied that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, and he claimed to be the one and only God. In Surah Maryam, chapter 19, there are people who claim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a child, either a son or daughters. Some people claim that the angels are the daughters of Allah. Some people claim that Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Jesus, is the son of Allah. Some people claim that Isra, this is regarding the Jews, that he is the son of Allah. Now, to claim that Allah has a son is a major sin. And I'm going to read few verses from Surah Maryam to show how degrading it is to the Almighty that we ascribe a son to him or a child in any form. وَقَالُوا اتَّخَذَ الرَّحْمَنُ وَلَدًا. They say, the Most Gracious has betaken a child. لَقَدْ جِئْتُمْ شَيْئًا إِدًّا. Indeed, you have put forth a thing most monstrous. تكاد السماوات يتفطرن منه وتنشق الأرض وتخر الجبال هدا أن دعوا للرحمن ولدا. At this, the skies are about to burst, the earth to split asunder, and the mountains to fall down in utter ruin, that they attributed a child to the Most Gracious. Can you imagine? Just by attributing a child to God, whether a son or a daughter, the heavens, the earth, and the mountains are about to collapse because of such false claim. وَمَا يَنْبَغِي لِلرَّحْمَنِ أَنْ يَتَّخِذَ وَلَدًا. It is not consonant, it is not befitting to the majesty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he should beget a child. Now I'm going to read the footnote to explain why it is so upsetting to Allah, why it is so unacceptable that anybody would claim that Allah has a child, has a son or a daughter. The belief in Allah begetting a son or a daughter is not a question merely of words or of speculative thought. It is a stupendous blasphemy against Allah. It lowers Allah to the level of an animal. If combined with the doctrine of vicarious atonement, it amounts to a negation of Allah's justice and man's personal responsibility. It is destructive of all moral and spiritual order and is condemned in the strongest possible terms. So, people always insulted Allah, either by ignoring him fully. This is a form of blasphemy. People today who claim that they are atheists, they don't even believe there is a creator. It's a great insult. Or those who claim that Allah has a son or has a daughter. Or those who claim that the angels are females and they are associated with Allah in different forms. Or those who worship idols and believe that these idols would bring them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنَّمَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ لِيُقَرِّبُونَ إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. We only worship these idols to bring us closer to Allah. We believe in Him. So the insult was there all the time. The Jews claimed, or those who blasphemed from the children of Israel, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so poor and we are rich. Allahu faqirun wa nahnu aghniya. Allah is so poor. He is asking us to feed the poor and the needy, then He is poor Himself. Why can't He do it Himself? In Surah Yasin, people who were asked to give charity, they say, why should we feed someone whom Allah would have Himself fed? We didn't create them, let Him feed them. In another verse, in Surah Al-Ma'idah chapter 5, children of Israel again said clearly, Yadullahi maghlula. The hand of Allah is so tight. Allah is so miser. Allah is so stingy. غُلَّتْ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَلُعْنُوا بِمَا قَالُوا. Let their hands be tight. Let they be cursed regarding what they said. بل يداه مبسوطتان. In fact, his hands are so stretched, overstretched. He spends as he wills. That's what the Quran says. So there are people, and there were people in the past who ridiculed Allah and insulted him. And there are people today who are doing exactly the same. Question is, how should we react? Now there are people also who ridiculed and killed many of the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are all aware of this. Many prophets being killed. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah saved him from their plans. When he immigrated from Mecca to Medina, it was planned that he was going to be killed. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him. They tortured him. They used to put thorns and filth in front of his house, so that when he gets out in the early morning, when it's still dark, he will trip over, he will step into these things, and his feet will start to bleed. One day he was doing his sujood, and they brought the intestines of an animal which had just been slaughtered and put the whole thing on his back. And it was young Fatima who came and they cleaned it. Prophet ﷺ continued to be in his sujood while the whole thing was on his back. They called him Sha'ir. What is Sha'ir? Poet. They called him Majnoon. What's Majnoon? Crazy, insane. They called him Sahir. What is Sahir? Magician, sorcerer. Yeah, they called him Kahin, and so on. They gave him all the bad names you can imagine. And in spite of all this, they continued to keep their personal belongings with him, to keep it for them, because they trusted him. They denied the message and called him a liar, insane, magician, sorcerer, and so on. But they continued to say, do you mind please to keep all my gold with you or my property, because I'm going to travel for a while and come back. That's why he was known as As-Sadiq Al-Amin. As-Sadiq, the one who always told the truth. Al-Amin, the trustworthy. People trusted him with their property and their personal belongings. So Prophet ﷺ was tortured by them, was insulted by them physically and psychologically. Muhammad ﷺ was accused. And Dr. Sweden, there is a space here. I always book it for my GP, you see? No preferences. So when we talk about accusing his wife of committing adultery, can you imagine? They accused Aisha radiallahu anha that she committed adultery. So their attack on the Prophet ﷺ was not only on the message or his personality, but went all the way to his family. So this, when you read or you hear about a cartoonist producing cartoons for Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, or someone insulting the Quran or burning it down, it is not new. It's been happening all the time. It is how should we react to all this. They insulted the Quran. They called it Asatirul Awwaleen, the tales of those who were earlier, who came earlier. Asatir. Ustura means a tale and something you imagine. They called it Adghathu Ahlam, nightmares. He saw it in his dreams. There's a very interesting hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. There was a Christian who converted to Islam, and he wrote a very large part of Surah Al-Baqarah. Very large. He was one of the Kuttab al-Wahi, the scribers of the revelation. Prophet ﷺ dictated to him the revelation, and he wrote it. This is in Sahih al-Bukhari. Suddenly, this man changed his mind. He decided not to become a Muslim anymore, and he said, this Quran, I wrote it, actually it's not a revelation. How did the Prophet ﷺ react? Did he throw a brick into his window? Did he burn down his house? He ignored him fully. Completely, he was ignored fully. So the man died, and his people took him and buried him. The earth refused to accept him, so the earth threw him out. So the people, his people said, oh look, the followers of Muhammad came and dug out the grave and put the body out. So they dug a much deeper one, and the earth did exactly the same. The enemies of Islam are not new. The enemies of Islam are the enemies of Nuh, the enemies of Ibrahim, the enemies of Isa, the enemies of Musa. They tried to kill Isa ﷺ, and Allah saved him and raised him unto himself. If you read Surah Yasin, look how many times it was mentioned when the people came to them, they were killed. When you read about Bani Israel, how many prophets they killed. It's not something new. It's going to continue until the day of judgment. So now let me read few things regarding some etiquettes which we as Muslims must learn. Now suppose I am in a meeting or sitting with people who are insulting Islam and insulting the Quran. What should I do? You tell me, please.
Walk out.
Eh?
Walk out.
Walk out. Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. That's it. Walk out. It doesn't say take off your shoes and hit them. It didn't say that, did it? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. This is Surah An-Nisa chapter 4 verse 140. Already has he sent you in the book that when you hear the message of Allah held in defiance and ridicule, you are not to sit with them unless they turn to a different theme, unless they change the subject. Why? Because if I don't walk out, I become like them. إنكم إذا مثلهم. So let me read the whole verse in Arabic. وقد نزل عليكم في الكتاب أن إذا سمعتم آيات الله يكفر بها ويستهزأ بها فلا تقعدوا معهم حتى يخوضوا في حديث غيره إنكم إذا مثلهم إن الله جامع المنافقين والكافرين في جهنم جميعا. So if you don't walk out unless the topic or the subject or the discussion has been changed, you would be like them. Just as simple as that. In Surah Al-An'am chapter 6, something very similar, verse 68, وَإِذَا رَأَيْتَ الَّذِينَ يَخُوضُونَ فِي آيَاتِنَا فَأَعْرِضْ عَنْهُمْ حَتَّى يَخُوضُوا فِي حَدِيثٍ غَيْرِهِ وَإِمَّا يُنْسِيَنَّكَ الشَّيْطَانُ فَلَا تَقْعُدْ بَعْدَ الذِّكْرَ مَعَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. When you see people engaged in vain discussion about our signs, about our revelations, about our messengers, about our prophets, turn away from them unless they turn to a different theme, unless they change the subject. If Satan ever makes you forget, then after recollection, do not sit in the company of those who do wrong. Brothers, could you please move forward? Everybody, while you are sitting, just move forward. Just move forward. Everybody, please. You know, it happens very often. There are people I don't like their company. Some Muslims, unfortunately, call themselves Muslims. I don't like their company because every time I sit with them, I hear them making fun of Muslims and Islam and the way some Muslims behave and so on. So it hurts me. So what I do, I avoid sitting with them. I avoid sitting with them. Now, let me read the footnote regarding the first one here. Where we see or hear truth held in light esteem, we ought to make our protest and withdraw from such company, not out of arrogance, as if we thought ourselves superior to other people, but out of real humility, lest our own nature be corrupted in such society. But it is possible that our protest or our sincere remonstrance may change the theme of discourse. In that case, we have done good to those who were inclined to hold truth in light esteem, for we have saved them from ridiculing the truth. And the footnote for this one in Surah Al-An'am chapter 6 verse 68, we must show our disapproval by leaving. Just as simple as that. Not by fighting with them. We are not allowed. Allah clearly says, walk out. Thank you, walk out. You remember the president of Turkey, when he was having the discussion with the prime minister, I think, of Israel, and he walked out. Just as simple as that. He showed his protest against what was going on. Great dignity. Now, am I allowed to insult the idols of the idol worshippers? We know that these idols are false gods. Have I got any right as a believer in the one true God, to condemn the idols. Let's say I'm standing now in front of a Hindu or a Buddhist who worship all these idols, monkeys and elephants and name them. Have I got the right to do that?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Well, Prophet Ibrahim went into the temple and broke all of them, didn't he?
Different things.
Different thing. Thanks, Rafiq. Thanks. Now listen to this. Verse 108, chapter 6. وَلَا تَسُبُّوا الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ فَيَسُبُّوا اللَّهَ عَدْوًا بِغَيْرِ عِلْمٍ. Do not insult or ridicule the idols or the gods they call upon besides Allah. Why? Because they will insult Allah without knowledge. This is the fear here. If I insult this God, they will insult my God. So Allah is teaching us even not to provoke these people, so that by provoking them, they will insult the one true God. So it's our reaction which will make people behave in a way which is un-Islamic. Do not revile those whom they call upon besides Allah, lest they out of spite revile Allah in their ignorance. We have made alluring to each people its own doings. In the end, they will return to their Lord, and He shall then tell them the truth of all that they did. Very important. There are 4 verses in the Quran which I always read in my prayers regarding protection. إِنَّا كَفَيْنَاكَ الْمُسْتَهْزِئِينَ فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَالسَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِكَافٍ عَبْدَهُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ. Now what does this mean? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken the full responsibility to protect Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, be sufficient for him. Muhammad does not need us to protect him. Okay? He doesn't need us. Allah yakfi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Allah guaranteed the protection of Muhammad. Allah is enough and sufficient for Muhammad. So in chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 137, فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا. If they believe in what you believe in, they've been guided. وَإِنْ تَوَلَّوْا. If they turn back, فَإِنَّمَا هُمْ فِي شِقَاقٍ. The word shiqaq is a breach of unity of religion. They are فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. But Allah will suffice you against them. Allah is enough and more than adequate for your defense. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse confirms that it is Him who is guarding and protecting Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. In Surah Al-Hijj chapter 15 verse 95, إِنَّا كَفَيْنَاكَ الْمُسْتَهْزِئِينَ. Truly we defend you from the scoffers, those who ridicule you. Truly we will suffice you against those who make fun of you, those who mock you, those who jeer at you. So if the whole world is ranged against the Prophet of Allah, as was at one time the case with the Prophet, and scoffs at all that is sacred, the sense of Allah's presence and the protection overweights all, and after all the scoffers are creatures of a day. Soon will they find their level and be undeceived as to all their falsehoods. But the truth of Allah endures forever. In Surah Az-Zumar chapter 39, أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِكَافٍ عَبْدَهُ. Is not Allah enough for the protection of His servant Muhammad as-salam? Will not Allah defend His servant? The righteous man will find Allah enough for all the protection he needs, all the rest and peace he craves for, and all the happiness he can imagine. Finally, يا أيها الرسول بلغ ما أنزل إليك من ربك وإن لم تفعل فما بلغت رسالته والله يعصمك من الناس إن الله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. O messenger, proclaim the message which has been sent to you from your Lord. If you did not, you wouldn't have fulfilled and proclaimed His message or His mission. And Allah will defend you from people who mean mischief. Muhammad ﷺ had many difficulties to contend with, many enemies, and dangers to avoid. This is to assure him that his message was true and from Allah. His mission must be fulfilled, and he must, as he did, go forward and proclaim that message and fulfill his mission, trusting Allah for protection and unconcerned if people who had lost all sense of right rejected it or threatened him. Let me give you an example of the psychology of the enemies of Islam very quickly. وَدَّ كَثِيرٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ لَوْ يَرُدُّونَكُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ إِيمَانِكُمْ كُفَّارًا حَسَدًا مِّنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِهِمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُمُ الْحَقُّ. Quite a number of the people of the book wish if they could turn you, Muslims, back to infidelity after you have believed. So Allah tells me this is in their hearts. The envy is there. They want us not to believe after we have become believers. So following this knowledge from Allah, does he ask me to go and fight them and kill them? What does he say? فَاعْفُوا وَاصْفَحُوا حَتَّى يَأْتِيَ اللَّهُ بِأَمْرِهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. He asks me to forgive and overlook till Allah brings about his command, because Allah has power over all things. إن تمسسكم حسنة تسؤهم وإن تصبكم سيئة يفرحوا بها. This is in Surah Ali Imran chapter 3 verse 1 to 0. If any good befalls you, it grieves them. But if some misfortune overtakes you, they rejoice at it. So they become so happy when something bad happens to us. They rejoice. And when something good happens to us, they become so upset. So what is the message? وَإِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا لَا يَضُرُّكُمْ كَيْدُهُمْ شَيْئًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ مُحِيطٌ. But if you persevere patiently and you fear Allah, no harm will come to you, because Allah has knowledge of everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala compassed round about all that they do. When people were told that other people are gathering a huge army to attack them, and they said to them, fear them, قالوا حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. When people said to them, a great army is gathering against you, so fear them, but it only increased their faith, they said, حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. فانقلبوا بنعمة من الله وفضل لم يمسسهم سوء واتبعوا رضوان الله والله ذو فضل عظيم. And they returned with grace and bounty from Allah. No harm ever touched them. Now, the last verse I'm going to read now, I want you to concentrate, please, please, very careful. It's verse number 186, chapter 3. لَتُبْلَوُنَّ فِي أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَأَنفُسِكُمْ. Surely you are going to be tested in your property, in your possessions, in your wealth, and in yourselves. La in Arabic, before the verb, means lam al-qasam. It's going to happen. Allah swears that you are going to be tested. All of you. In your property and in yourselves. وَلَتَسْمَعُنَّ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا أَذًى كَثِيرًا. And you are going to hear a lot of bad things from those who've been given the book before you and from the idol worshippers. So what is the solution? What should we do? If Allah is telling us, going to test us in our properties and in ourselves, and that we are going to hear a lot which will upset us from the people of the book, Christian Jews before us, and from the idol, how should we react? Go and burn the embassy? Throw bricks into the glass there of the window, and وَإِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. But if you persevere patiently and ward of evil and fear Allah, فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ, that will be a determining factor in all affairs. So, not wealth and possessions only for want of them, or the means of our trial, are the means of our trial. All our personal talents, knowledge, opportunities, and their opposites. In fact, everything that happens to us and makes up our personality is a means of our testing. So is our faith. We shall have to put up for it many insults from those who do not share it. So I think the message is clear. وَإِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. And I want you, when you go home today, please read verse 186, chapter 3, and try to understand the meanings and or act according to the instruction in it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المؤمنين فاستغفروه إنه غفور رحيم. Our brother Ali actually is